Good morning, colleagues, and greetings to our viewers and our listeners. My name is Sibusiso Dlamini. I'm your host for the first episode of the European Union in Eswatini delegation Youth Advisory Board episode series. This is our first episode where we hope to open a window into the work that the European Union delegation does in Eswatini and the work that the Youth Advisory Board is doing in terms of trying to integrate youthness into the programs that the biggest developmental partner to the government is doing. We're honored and privileged to have His Excellency Ambassador Karsten Mecklenburg. I hope I'm not butchering your name. Thank you so much for joining us today. We know you have a hectic schedule, so we truly appreciate you being with us today.
I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Karsten Mecklenburg.
Oh, I'll get it right next time. It's Your Excellency, you've been in the country for a while now. You've attended a couple of events. We've seen you at the Bushfire Festival. We've seen you interact with young people. We've seen you interact with the Youth Advisory Board. Why is it particularly important for the European Union to have young people or to even have the Youth Advisory Board?
Well, it's an approach, it's a policy that we have chosen in most, if not all, our partner countries, because it is important. The young generation is the generation that in every place takes over the country and the society in a couple of years. So that's the future of the country. But in a country like Eswatini, it's particularly important because you have a very young population overall. So you have, I think, with a median age of 22 to 23 years, you see that the majority of the population is young. And that is what is the future of the society. So it's up to people like you, the younger generation, that will have to bear the consequences of policies and policy implementation in a country. And that's why I think, and as we are only partners. Yes, we are an important partner of the country, development partner, we are only partners. So our intervention has to be humble. So we are working very closely with the government, obviously. We have always done so. We have involved stakeholders like Business Eswatini, civil society organizations. But if our intervention, our partnership is to be impactful, then we also feel we need to listen to the young generation. So, and this is, it's difficult to implement, obviously, and we felt like a structure like the Youth Advisory Board is a nice way of a compromise, because obviously we cannot include all the thousands of youth in our dialogue, so it needs to be representative selective, and that's by always reaching out also to people with a different background, with different profiles. We heard that in the presentation earlier. And I think it's a nice way to do. Yes, it could sometimes be a bit formalistic, but I think, and you tell me also what you feel about it, it is something that is important.
Okay. Having conversed with the advisory board, having seen the realities of the young people of this country, what do you think are the biggest challenges that the young people of this country are faced with, and how does the European Union delegation in this country try to assist government in handling those problems?
Thank you. Let me start. Maybe you asked the challenges. Yes, that is. But I would also start with what's the assets, what's the opportunities? Because what I observed in this country since I arrived is a great human potential, human capital, which is at the same time much of what the country has. Because as we know, the country is not rich in oil or diamonds or gold. So what the country needs to work with is the human capital. And what I see is there's a lot of commitment, resilience also, because parts of the population are struggling to make ends meet, in particular those who are living outside the urban centers and rural communities. So in terms of the challenges that comes with it, human capital is the asset, I say, so then you need to develop it. And it is something that is a fact that with the high rate of unemployment, and in particular the high rate of youth unemployment, it raises questions about the future of the country. The government has identified that as a major target for government policy. And we have tried to accommodate and align with that need, also talking to the younger generation, people like you, to see how we can support the answers to that challenge. And I think one of the essential answers is skills development. It is obviously something where everybody has to define him or herself what you want to achieve in your personal life, for your family, for your community. But what I also saw is that many of the younger generation representatives, people like you and others I talk to, they feel also responsible for the future of the country, which is also a great asset because it reflects a bit also of the pride of the people. Yes, there's many young people who ask questions about which way the country goes. Is the governance model sustainable? Is there things that are needed in terms of reforms to the government model? Is there ways to also develop the economic model? But it shows at the same time a positive attitude to that and a certain pride of the country, a pride of the nation, and that is something that needs to go together. So, and what we try to do is, as a European Union, as a development partner, to assist the younger generation, the authorities, the business. We have developed one of our priorities for the years to come, like the 2-3 years to come in particular, to be concrete, is skills development. So we have been launching a major project together with business partners, stakeholders, and the government to look into 5 priority areas. We want to support, in particular, TVET, technical vocational education and training, skills development in 5 priority sectors, including, for example, textile, agri, food value chains, energy, creative sector, including also tourism and the energy. Did I say energy? Yes, renewable energy. So identified together with the government and business to see these are potential areas to develop the assets of the country, and skills development should go with it.
Okay. You mentioned a huge program on skills development, Your Excellency. What is the delegation doing in terms of ensuring social inclusion? Because we do know that a majority of the population in this country still does reside in rural areas. What programs is the delegation working on that ensure inclusion, especially of those that reside in the rural areas?
It is always essential for us to keep the element of social inclusion as a major factor in our intervention. It's something that is enshrined in the UN Sustainable Development Goals. One of the elements is that nobody should be left behind in the development agenda of a country. And so we always try to include that in all the formulations and implementation of our programs. For us, concretely, that means when we develop the skills developments, that we look in particular to vulnerable groups. Vulnerable groups, obviously, it's not a simple definition. It goes very far. You said people living in the periphery, in the rural areas. So we have done that in the past. Many projects that we implemented over the past decades have been in community development, agriculture projects to enable farmers, including women and youth, so to make ends meet, to develop a project. But it goes beyond that. So we have specific projects that target women, because women are a vulnerable group, and very often they don't have the same opportunities than men. We have projects also including implemented with civil society that target, for example, the very sensitive area of victims of gender-based violence. So not only the social mental accompanying, but also then helping those people to get back into an employment logic. So to get back on their feet, to get over the scars that they have suffered from. We will also in the future, one of our projects targets in particular people with mental health. That's something we have also in conversation with the Deputy Prime Minister. It's an issue that is dear to her heart also. So we have a number of issues, a number of projects that specifically target vulnerable groups. and that want to make sure that we are not only supporting the strongest, not only those who have a business running, which is also important because you have to develop lighthouse projects that go ahead, that pull the economy with them, but we want to make sure that everybody is able to participate.
Okay. With all this work that the delegation is doing in the country, how do you assess the long-term impact, both in terms of investment and how it impacts the population?
I hope it has a positive impact. It is always, again, as I said, we are only partners. It is important for us that what we do here is impactful. But in the end, it's the responsibility of the people of Eswatini. What I have seen that we have done in the past, I think we can be proud, us as a partner together with the people of Eswatini. I'm looking, for example, at the whole complex of the sugar sector. And again, not only talking about the big business that has developed successfully, including reaching out to world markets, exporting Eswatini sugar. It's an important revenue for the country, but also developing the communities, the small-scale farmers that contribute to the sugar value chain, but also providing support to horticulture, to people who grow vegetables and fruit, including irrigation schemes, including supporting them with access to energy, which is an important factor. So I think what we have achieved, and also I forgot about the important element of primary education. One of the main successes that we have achieved here, I think, is together with the authorities to create a conducive environment that every child has access to free primary education. I mean, everywhere. I think that's almost 97%. It continues to be a constant challenge, obviously, to keep that running, to keep up the quality. There has been some setbacks on it, but I think it has been a major achievement. So I think the impact we have achieved is positive. And with that attitude, we also look into what we want to achieve in the future. And I refer to it. The new priority we have identified together with the government is skills development to respond to the challenge of youth unemployment. So it depends in the end on individual actors. It's important to have the skills development, we call it market-driven, so that you identify those skills that are needed by the society and the economy, that you don't hit the wrong button. But then in the end, it depends. It's an important task for business also. Business needs to be involved. Well, like that's why also Business Eswatini is part of our steering committee on that. The government is on board, civil society is on board, and we hope that as we launch the project now, that in the years to come, we will achieve positive impacts there as well.
Okay. You mentioned market-driven economy. Perhaps could you give us a window into what is a hindrance to local products in terms of accessing international markets, in terms of quality, and maybe what programs do you have in trying to assist, especially youth-led projects, to have a market in the EU? We do know that it's quite favorable, and especially with what the US president is doing right now, the biggest issue amongst everyone is tariffs. So please also speak to that in terms of the EU being a partner to government and not giving us any tariffs as perhaps we're seeing now with the US.
Yes. No, I mean, as we have been observing the developments globally, in particular those driven from the United States, that we have been sending out the message wherever we can, and I have done so here in Eswatini also, that our approach remains unchanged, and our commitments, and their legal commitments, we have an agreement with the SADC region, the EU SADC Economic Partnership Agreement. For South Africa, there's certain exceptions because South Africa has a strong economy, so some of the products that are exported from South Africa to the European Union are met by tariffs, but they are modest. They have always been, so there's certain exceptions. But for the other SADC members, including Eswatini, there is free access to the EU market. There's zero tariffs. So there's no quotas, because that sometimes is also the fact that to benefit from free from zero tariffs that there's a certain quota. That is not the case for Eswatini. So whenever you hit an obstacle in another market, export to the European Union, it's open. It's open and accessible. But that is easy to say because obviously, and as you say, it's market driven. It's a free economy. Nobody in the European Union will buy something he doesn't like. So you need to develop products that meet consumer needs and desires, and you need to develop products that are also complying with safety requirements, with, if you talk about agri-products, for example, with sanitary and phytosanitary requirements, which is sometimes a challenge, in particular for countries that have not the capacity, like laboratories and the infrastructure to observe and to implement. But we have been working with Eswatini on that very closely. Like, for example, on beef exports, for example, we had regular conversations also to tell the government what needs to be implemented, and the government meets their obligations. Foot and mouth disease now is a challenge, obviously, but that's a specific situation. We will overcome that. Also on citrus fruit exports to the European Union, there has been some challenges in the past. If you want to export honey, you need to meet specific requirements. You have to have an approval from a laboratory that is certified. The same on technical products, but we are working on that. And we have specific projects also to support business on that. So we have had, I think, a couple of projects implemented by the ITC, the International Trade Center. They are Geneva-based, attached to the WTO. And they have implemented some of our funds with specific support to small and medium-sized enterprises, many of them youth-led, to develop products that meet the needs of the European market. What comes to my mind is it's because the gentleman was also then successfully participating in an additional call for, we donated one of our service cars that we replaced one of our service cars and then we donated it. Favorite, I forgot his name now. Do you know his name? No, but yes, that's him. He was one of those who participated in the project to go to the Paris Design Show and also to an event in Brussels with his initial products. And it's particularly striking also and attractive, I find, because he develops these lamps and elements using traditional Eswatini forms, like representing traditional huts, using traditional materials. And we brought him and other of those companies together with designers in Europe to adapt the product and then go to the design show and meet potential buyers, adapt and develop new products, and with that see to be able to export to the European market. And that is something which is important to us. So that we not only say, okay, the market is open, it's free, come in and send your products, but also help to adapt the productive chain, the product development, to actually be able to do that, to export.
Climate change, Your Excellency, has also been quite a challenge in this country. What is the delegation, or maybe what programs has the delegation have in place or has done before in terms of trying to assist government with handling or ensuring climate resiliency, especially also building skills, coming back to the topic of skills, to ensuring that young people do have skills that can create jobs also in the climate resiliency or green skills. Are there any programs, are there any interventions that young people can look forward to?
Well, what comes to my mind is we have been, the issues of climate change is very broad. So we have had conversations and dialogue with the government and the involved stakeholders around the question of climate policy for quite some time, including discussing with the government also how to develop their response to the global commitments under what we call the Conference of the Parties of the Paris Agreement, so the big international climate agreement, where Eswatini has to regularly also define their, it's called NDC, National Determined Contribution, but also development of the climate bill. I have to say I'm not sure where it stands exactly now. I think it's still in the pipeline, but we have been supporting the government, for example, with expertise. We brought experts from one of our member countries so to discuss the development of the climate bill. More concretely on action, I mean, the main issue I would see for Eswatini is in terms of its energy challenge. Obviously it is a challenge for the economy in any event. And the dependence on electricity imports from South Africa is a problem. But the potential is there to develop Eswatini's own energy base load. And what I see is a lot of potential in green and renewable energy. And that is the response to the challenge of climate change, because much of the threats or the factors that contribute to global warming is burning fossil fuels. And if everybody can contribute to alternatives, everybody contributes also to the solution. And obviously we see Eswatini is one of those countries that is exposed to extreme weather events. When you see like increasing level of rain, thunderstorm, floods, so it's something that is a challenge. And that is the result also of climate change. So we have been supporting renewable energy projects in the past. Again, as I mentioned earlier, one of the important activities we had was renewable energy solutions for small-scale farmers, for example, in the agriculture value chains. That was very successful. We have launched last year, I think in December, together with the UNDP as our implementing partner, a new project that is called, I think, catalyzing access to renewable energy. Again, the main target is to enable small business, including in particular youth is one of the elements that is highlighted there, to find alternative energy access. Alternative meaning renewable energy and green energy. We have had other projects implemented with the German GIZ, also enabling small and medium-sized enterprises, but also other actors that could participate in the calls successfully to find ways to finance green energy solutions. So that is the response we are trying to implement on the broader challenge of climate change, if you want it.
Okay. If you were any of these young people in the room, Your Excellency, looking at the current programs that the EU has, be it the Youth Empowerment Fund, be it the Skills program, which one would you jump at? Which one would you jump at as an opportunity in light of the unemployment issues and the poverty challenges in the country?
I'm not sure if the answer is to look at the EU programs. I think you need to look at your specific situation, your skills, your environments, your community. You need to, I saw the slogans here, engage, empower, connect. Engage and connect, that's your responsibility. Empower, that's a bit our role. We try to jump in and offer opportunities, indeed. So it will come as we speak in the next couple of months, we will see activities on the skills development. I understand from the presentation, most of you have already gone through the skills development, but some of you will want to look at it. I think opportunities are there, but I wouldn't focus what you have in mind, what you as a young generation, or if you say if I was a young person, I wouldn't look at the start at what a program is offered by, be it the government or development partner. I would rather look into what I feel is my personal potential and then develop a project based on my own capacity. And then the support will come. You will find a way to be supported.
Young people often feel, and I think it was mentioned earlier on, they feel taken advantage of. They feel like they get in these platforms for symbolism and tokenism. What maybe is the delegation doing to try and be more intentional, especially with the Youth Advisory Board in its role of advising?
Well, it is, as I said that earlier, it is a challenge to have a structure where you have a selection of young people that should speak for the young generation. So there's naturally a factor of some symbolic element in it. But I think what is important is that when you feel you come into such a situation that you feel you're not listened to anymore, then you say it, you speak up. You say, well, listen, and it's more convincing if you say not I, if you say, well, I bring with me my experience in talking to my peers. So this is what the young generation feels. And talking to, be it the government or talking to us, to me, to say, listen, Ambassador, what you are doing in that project, concretely, we have our doubts if that is meaningful. You should or may want to adapt. So that is the way how you would get to an impact of your role as a speaker for the young generation. But the risk is always there that there's a certain, I wouldn't say like being abused or so, but both sides or all sides need to take the exercise serious. And then it will have an impact also.
No, we hope the type of thinking or this idea that the EU has can go across government, because young people in this country do constitute 70% of our population, and most of them aren't represented in the decision-making positions. We don't have money to participate in elections. A lot of them don't even vote, which is quite problematic. So hopefully some of your partners and even government can replicate it across, Your Excellency. Thank you so much. I'd like to bring an artistic question to it. You've attended Bushfire. What was your feel of it, firstly, and how has your feel been of the artistic sector in this country? Are there any plans to support the creative arts sector?
Well, we, as I said, in our skills program, we have one of the 5 priority sectors will link to the creative arts sector. Don't ask me how that will materialize, because it is still to be developed. It's always a challenge. We have done that in other countries also. It's always twofold. Sometimes you support the creative sector because it is an important element in the economy. It creates jobs. It's as simple as that. But creative arts, the role of artists is more than that. It is also contributing to the social fabric of a society. It transports messages. It is a vector for bringing people together. So that is also always an element we appreciate and we want to support. And Bushfire is a nice example of that. Our support, our partnership with Bushfire was focusing in the past 11 years, I think, on the Bushfire Schools Festival. So the event that takes place 2 days earlier, which is a nice exercise of bringing school children, or there's others also. I think it's the target is to be under 18 from all over the country, into an experience of expressing themselves and using creativity as a vector for societal change. But I've also talked to Bushfire about our activity in the region, more globally, programs that the European Union offers, where artists from Africa can respond to calls. And that is something where Eswatini should definitely also be alert, be aware of what's taking place. So yes, it is an important part of our intervention, but it is not the priority, if I may say so. So the challenges are broad. We cannot support everything. We have to focus. And that's an important lesson we have learned, because also our resources are not growing. That's also the truth. So we have to set priorities. Okay. But I think I've read in the newspaper today, I wasn't even aware, one of our projects with civil society, the YES project, Youth Empowerment, what is the S for? I don't even know. It's with Cosby and other partners, and they also have one project which is apparently an arts exhibition. I have learned that myself. I have to talk to our colleagues.
It supports GBV.
It's in particular linked also to gender-based violence, but I think there's something planned in terms of an arts exhibition to come. So you see, we include that element in other, not only the professional artists, the big players like Bushfire, but also at a lower scale.
Right. Well, thank you so much. So thank you very much for being such a good audience, for keeping all your phones on silent. I am so proud of you. I am so very proud of you, and thank you so much, Your Excellency.